Hey guys, what's up? So, I want to talk about awareness. Kind of lost it for a minute. Because it's something that comes up a lot, like being aware, being conscious of in the spiritual and personal development communities. But I don't think we really fully address like why it's even important to be aware, why awareness solves our problems or helps us to solve our problems, anyways. So, self awareness is kind of fucking crucial if we ever plan on creating the changes, creating the reality, creating the relationships, the life, etc., that we desire. And the reason that I say this is because it's super easy to look around and be like, well, I'm aware of what's going on. I'm aware of what my environment is. I'm aware that this is happening, that I see this, that I hear this, that I smell this, that I taste this, that I feel this. I'm aware that I don't like this. I'm aware that I wish this was different. I'm aware that my relationship isn't where I want it to be. My career, my money situation isn't where I want it to be. I'm aware of all these things, and that's not helping me. Well, you can have the awareness that it's going on, but to really become self aware means asking yourself the difficult questions. It means saying, well, okay, I realize that all this is going on. I understand. I am aware that there are things that I don't necessarily like, that this isn't where I want it to be, or that isn't where I want it to be, or whatever. So now what, right? And the thing is that we have to be able to ask the questions. We have to be able to say, okay, so even though I am aware of the fact that these things aren't where I want them to be, or this isn't working how I want it to be, what can I do? What within me is attracting these situations over and over and over again? So it means getting honest. It means saying, oh, yeah, I guess my allowance of fear to kind of drive the car, run the show, dictate my choices is probably keeping me from doing all these things that I really want to do, that I would love to do, right? Or because I'm indecisive, because I choose to allow procrastination or whatever to kind of take over, I'm in a place of non-action. And I wish that it was different. I wish that these changes would just fucking like magically happen to me, or that I would get to this place where suddenly I'm like above the procrastination or above the fear. Like, that place is never gonna fucking happen. You're never gonna be above those things because we still have ego, right? And our ego, our subconscious, is going to try all it can to keep us safe, to keep our energy conserved, because it's in survival mode, because its main function is to keep us alive, right? And it does so by, the path of least resistance. So when we have these routines, like, we keep them going. When we're in the same patterns, we keep them going because our subconscious is like, cool, no resistance. We know exactly what's coming. It's all predictable, right? So when we become aware of these things, right, when we say, well, you know what, actually, like, I have been in the same pattern. I have been in this same place for a long time, and I don't fucking understand why I'm still here. I don't understand why nothing has changed. The reason that you're still there, the reason nothing has changed, is because you're still doing the same things, whether you realize it or not, right? And so how do we become conscious of the unconscious, right? Well, we have to say, for all those things that we don't want or like in our lives, right? Instead of complaining about them, we have to say, well, wait a minute. Why, though? Why is this still the same? Why hasn't this changed? Why am I still in the same place? Why do I still, not like this? Why is this still not working? Right? And it's because we're all running on programming that doesn't fucking support where we want to go. It supports keeping us alive, which obviously, like, that's a good thing. But I'm going to give you some real life examples, right? So and a lot of you know this already, but I'll never stop talking about it because it's the biggest for me, like even still, like the biggest thing I ever did was make the choice to move here to Sedona, to be like, I never felt, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Like, it was where I lived my whole life basically, and I never felt like home there. I never felt at home there. It never felt like home to me, right? And so, like, it didn't matter when things were going right or when things were going wrong. Like, it was just never a thing for me. And so it wasn't like I had things to work out. Although I did, I didn't run away because I had problems, like that never works. But I knew that I was supposed to be here, right? I knew that moving here was what I needed to do. And I couldn't explain why. I mean, my family originated from here. But I couldn't explain why I felt so attached to it, because I'd never been here until I was like in my late 20s. And I wasn't expecting anything. I came here like, oh, Arizona, it's going to be a hot desert, right? No. And so I was shocked that I had the connection that I did when I came here. And I was like, oh, holy shit. This is what it's supposed to feel like when it's right. This is what it's supposed to feel like when I'm at home where I live, right? And so, after that first trip, I was like, yes, this is what I want. This is like what I want for my life. I want to move there and blah, blah, blah. And 4 years later, I was still living in Los Angeles. I was still complaining that I was in the shitty relationship, in the shitty job, in the same place, blah, 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 right? And like, of course, I was like, I had switched jobs and I was getting paid more, and we were renting this house and it was really nice or whatever, but I still was like waiting for someone to say, go ahead and go now. You can leave. It's okay to go now. Go. This is your sign if this is what you're looking for. Like, leave. Or, waiting for someone to tell me that it was a good idea, waiting for someone to reinforce what I already knew, waiting for someone to guarantee that if I did it, it would all be okay. I was waiting for that. And I wasn't even aware that that was what I was doing. And then, my clarity came in a moment of anger and frustration and, just this sort of like general discomfort and irritability. But that didn't really matter. It was kind of like the universe, my guides, ancestors were like, oh my God, here's like the biggest sign you ever needed in order for you to get your ass in gear, right? So I was waiting and waiting, and I didn't even realize that I was waiting. And that's what I was looking for, was that confirmation, was the validation, was the guarantee, blah, blah, blah. I was living in fear, living by fear, letting fear, my fear of the uncertain, of the unknown, dictate what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. It was dictating the choices that I made, and I allowed it to, right? I allowed that to happen. And I was never, when I when it came to this realization, I was never mad at myself. I was never like, oh, well, good Lord, we wouldn't be in this situation right now if you would just listened and done what you knew. Like, no, I was not, I've never really been that way. But because it doesn't serve a purpose, like, judgment comes from ego and healing doesn't come from judgment, right? So I was never like, oh my God, well, this is all our fault, right? It wasn't like that. It was like, oh, fuck. Now that I see what I've been doing and not doing this whole time, I can get clear about why the fuck it is that I felt like I needed that certainty. Why did I feel like I needed someone else to justify my choice? I'm a fucking adult, right? But like, that's our conditioning. We grew up that way, right? We grew up asking for fucking permission. So of course, that's what we're still doing. You know? So when we become aware of those things and not just like, oh yeah, I do that, or oh yeah, I think that, believe that, say that, whatever, like, because that's just acknowledgement, right? That's not awareness, that's just acknowledging that it's there, right? To become aware means that you're actually on the path to, oh, oh, I would like to heal this. I would like to change this, right? So it's not just acknowledging that it's there. It's not just kind of like, oh yeah, I do that, right? We have to kind of holistically approach moving forward then. And again, that means asking ourselves the tough questions. What do I want more is a question I have literally always asked myself, right? Because most of us grew up with this whole idea of like sacrifice or whatever, like you get to do one thing or the other. Especially like coming from single parent households, or if, you know, you were living under the poverty line or at the poverty line, like when you were young or whatever the case may be, a lot of the time we have this whole idea of like sacrifice. You can have one thing but not both, right? You can have this or that, right? So that's the question I always ask myself. What do I want more? Right? And I don't see it as when I'm sacrificing. So like when I took my first course, back in my, you know, late 20s, and it was like $120 course or something, I was making payments on $120, okay? Like, it's not like I just threw down 120 bucks. Not that, I mean, that's not in the grand scheme of things a lot of money at all, right? But at the time, that was a lot of money for me. Because, you know, I had so many other expenses at the time, and we will not get into that. But anyways, so, you know, for me, I was like, hey, I'm gonna make payments on this. I'm, you know, not gonna go out to eat 5 nights, or you know, 5 nights a week, or get coffee every day or whatever. Like, I have to ask myself, what is more important to me, that $5 whatever at Burger King, or the Starbucks coffee, or this course that I know is going to help me, that I know is going to change things for me, that I really want to fucking invest in for myself, right? And so I had to ask myself those things over everything, right? Like when I moved, I had to ask myself, what's more important? What do I want more? To stay here in this shitty relationship in a place that I don't really want to live, and continue to stay in this, like, whatever the fuck is going on? Or do I want to go where I know I belong, where I feel at home, where I know, and I can't say how I know, but I know that this is like a pivotal thing for me, but I'm not certain. I'm not certain about how it's going to turn out, right? Like, I had to want the uncomfortable thing more, right? I had to want it more. And I had to become aware of the fact that I wanted it more than I wanted the fucking bullshit status quo, right? What do I want more is a question that you should be asking yourself, honestly, especially if you're in a position where you're like, well, but I can't afford that. I really want to make this change, but I can't afford it. How can you afford it? Right? What is it costing you to not invest? Right? And I don't just mean money, I mean time, I mean energy into yourself. What the fuck is it costing you to not invest the time, money, and energy into you? Right? That's the fucking point. And when we become aware, when we ask ourselves those hard questions of what is more important, who am I living my life for? What rules am I living by? Why do I listen to these people? Why do I look to these people to make decisions for me? Why am I waiting for someone to give me permission? Why am I waiting for assurance? Why am I waiting for validation? Why am I waiting for an apology? Your subconscious holds the answers to all those questions. But the thing is, because we don't like to be uncomfortable, right? We don't like the discomfort of what those answers mean. We don't like it because then we feel like we're being blamed. Then we feel like it's our fault, right? And I'm kind of getting off topic, I know, but like, this is the whole big thing. I promise. So, it's never about fault. It's never about blame. It's just about coming to the understanding, awareness, consciousness of, holy shit, this is what's been happening. This is what I've been doing. I literally had no idea. And I'll give you another life example, right? So I was having a conversation with a friend the other day and I asked her a question. And I was like, don't edit your answer, just free flow, tell me all the things, right? So she answered me and she was like, wow, I don't even know where that came from. And I was like, girl, I'm so proud of you. This is literally the first time you've told me something about how you felt or what you thought or what you believe that you literally didn't immediately after dump all over yourself. You weren't like, that's stupid. I don't know why I feel that way. That's dumb. It's dumb to believe that. Like, that's literally the first time it's ever happened. And she was like, what? I do that? Like, she had no clue that that's what she was doing. And I was like, literally every conversation this happens. But because she's been doing it her whole life, basically, she was like, I had no idea that I was doing that. And that's the thing, like things like that, where it seems like we would be aware that that's happening, that we're, like we'll say something and then kind of demean ourselves. You would think that would be something I would be aware of. Of course I would be aware that I was doing that. No. You want to know why? Because your subconscious mind is running the show nearly 100% of the time. So you are running on, like I said, old programming that's not supporting you now, right? So everything we learn between the ages of 0 and 7 is deeply ingrained. It's our morals, our values, the rules of our lives are all in there, right? And we're still living by those things, whether we realize it or not. And they may have been kind of compounded because over time, right, we're gaining all of this evidence to support, obviously, to support the programming that we are currently running, okay? So, like, how could we possibly be aware when it's something that we've been doing our entire lives? And like I said, these are just a couple of examples, like real life examples. And there's so many more, right? There's so many other things, like when we apologize, when we, say like, oh, I'm sorry for being late, or, we like, for example, like my fiance the other day like bumped the remote and it turned the TV off, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I was like, "Why the fuck are you sorry? Who cares? Like, whatever, you know." But we have these like auto responses. We do these things that we don't even recognize that we're doing, and like he'll be on me for something and I'm like, you realize you do literally exactly the same thing. We're very similar. And he's like, I do. So there's a shitload of programs we are constantly running that have been our autopilot baseline our entire lives. So, of course, we don't recognize them because we're literally doing them every day. Like, for example, have you ever gotten in your car to drive to your job or drive to the grocery store and you're like, how did I even get here? Like, I literally do not even remember the drive from my house to here. Has that ever happened to you? Like, it happens to me a lot, but we're in a small town. So, but, even still, like, so often we're doing something that we do constantly all the time, that we've built up, that we do every single day, that we don't even realize because it's just what we do. Like when you make coffee, do you think about it? Like not really. When you brush your teeth, do you think about it? When you get in the shower to take a shower, do you think about, okay, well now I have to turn the water on. Now I have to stand under the water. Now I have to get the shampoo and the conditioner and whatever, right? Like, no, we don't think about that shit. We just do it, right? So becoming aware is really about noticing, like I said, those things. So when you feel yourself complaining that this isn't how you want it, that's not how you want it, you don't like this, you don't like that, it's time to become aware of why that's in your life in the first place. It's time to get honest with yourself and say, well, what am I not doing or what am I doing that's causing this, right? Awareness and being at cause to me go hand in hand because you can, don't get me wrong, you can be aware and still not change. Although to me, that's kind of still in the acknowledgement phase. Like you're acknowledging like you do this shit or you do that shit or say this or believe that or think this or whatever. And I've been with a lot of different friends who said like, well, I know that I do that, but I don't understand why this isn't changing. And it's like, well, just because you acknowledge that it's happening doesn't mean that it's just going to magically change just because you have said that it's there, right? Like you actually have to do something different now, right? So I have a lot of clients, like I said, a lot of friends who are just like, well, I know. And we're essentially effectively, sort of banishing in a way, like sending away the guidance, the lesson, the advice, the opportunity to be open and understand. Because just because you're aware of something doesn't inherently mean that you understand it, right? And that's another topic for another time. But they don't inherently mean the same thing, right? So you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what do I live by, faith or fear? What do I want more? Status quo or the fucking change I really want to see in my life that I'm so tired of not getting? You have to take the action though. There is nothing and no one on the outside that's going to come and hit you over the head with a magic wand and be like, your life has changed forever. Congratulations. See you later. No, I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually be taking the action in the way of where you want to go, right? If you're going that way, but you want to be going that way, and you're like looking, and you're like, I really want to be going that way, but you keep going that way, what do you have to do? You have to stop and turn around, right? And then go the way you want to go. So It's empowering to be aware. It's empowering to be honest with ourselves. It's empowering to then turn around and do what we need to do, show up as who we need to show up as in order to have the changes that we want to see, the transformation, the the evolution, the reality that we want, right? So it's up to us to do that. No one is going to do it for us. And the longer that we wait for someone else to do it, the longer we're going to be waiting. So if you are someone who is waiting, now it's time to be aware. It's time to ask yourself, why am I waiting? Who am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? And can't I give myself that permission? Can't I give myself that validation? Of course you can. You're the only one who can, right? So, awareness, like I said, is super crucial if we're ever going to really truly see those transformations that we want to make in our lives. Because it helps us move towards that change, right? Like I said, acknowledging it, just being like, oh yeah, that's there. And then continuing to move, like I said, in the same patterns and cycles and staying in the status quo, staying in the comfort zone, isn't going to get you anywhere. So, isn't the momentary teeny tiny amount of discomfort that you feel when you get honest with yourself about where you are and why you're not where you want to be, isn't it worth it to figure that shit out so that you have an answer you can take actual action steps towards versus constantly being in a place of dissatisfaction? Right? Isn't that one blip of momentary, aha, I see why I'm not getting to where I want to go. It's because I'm not taking action in this way. It's because I'm not, in line with where I want to go. I'm in line with where I was. I'm in line with my past, not my future, not my present, right? Isn't that worth it? To change, to see the change happen, to create the reality, the relationships that you want? Just 1 second of discomfort, right? To like get the answer and then move towards it versus years and years and years of being dissatisfied and not understanding why you can't get to where you want to go. The power has always been yours. Just need to become aware of it, right? All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. I love you. If you have any questions, drop them below.